Good? Alright. So we're going to do the camera breakdown sheet. There are more things on here than just the words. So we are going to play along, and if you have them written down, great, but I'm still going to tell you a little bit about it. So, number one, can you tell what this is? This button right here. Ooh, I forgot to freeze it. Hold on. Freeze. Somewhere. Okay, freeze. Anyway, what's this button? Somebody? The what?
The playback button.
Playback button, yes. Playback button. So what do you use this for?
Look at the photos.
Yeah, to look at the photos. So after you've taken photos, it'll show it for you for a second. But if you want to look at them again, you're going to press this playback button. Okay? The next one is pretty simple. It says what it is. What is it?
Menu.
Menu. Okay? This is the number one reason you'll use it is for ISO. Okay? That's the only way you're going to get to ISO on the Nikons is through the menu button. Okay? So you have to remember that that's basically what you're going to use it for. The other thing it does is give you all of this stuff. So you can see ISO sensitivity here. So when you're arrowing through, if for whatever reason you need to get into anything in these bars, you'll just arrow over and it'll take you to these bars, and then you can go up and down, and then you'll go back into this menu and then scroll through those. Okay? The ISO, sensitivity, white balance are the two that you'll use the most. The rest of them, probably not so much. All right, next one. You have that one written down? What do you got?
The thumbnail dash help button.
Yes, thumbnail and help. It's got two jobs. So, when I say thumbnail, any idea what I mean? Yeah? No? This is why I'm talking about this, okay? So typically, you'll see a big picture here. If you press the thumbnail, you can see, I think it's 4, right? And then it goes to 9, and then it goes to like, so it just keeps going to multiples, so you can see more at a time. So if you get a whole bunch on your memory card, which shouldn't in this class, but typically, you get a whole bunch on your memory card, and you're like, oh my gosh, that one was like super far back, and I don't want to arrow through them one at a time. You just scroll, and you can see like, you know, maybe 18 or something, might be the max, on there at a time, so you can just scroll through 18 at a time, which is nice. Okay, so that's your thumbnail. The help button gives you help, but I don't ever use it, so yeah. All right, what about this one? Got a couple of jobs. Actually, 3 jobs. Anybody know?
Playback zoom.
Playback zoom. All right, so I'm gonna clarify that one. It's also half of the reset, which you shouldn't need to reset, but in case you do, it's half of that. You have to press 2 different things. It's also settings, which you shouldn't need to use it for settings either. So this is really the one I want you to know. Okay? Playback zoom. So when we used to do the tests in here, people would label this as zoom. How do you zoom your camera? With the lens, right? This has nothing to do with zooming the picture. On a little point and shoot, you would use a button. On here, you don't. So this is playback zoom. So if we're in here looking at a photo and we want to get closer and see if somebody's making a weird face or if their eyes are open, right? So you're going to zoom in and see if somebody's eyes open. This is how you do that. Okay? The other thing it does is, do you see the 2 magnifying glasses here? Kind of, sort of. Probably better on your sheet. There's 2 magnifying glasses. So this zooms in, this zooms out. So these little tiles, that shows you the thumbnail. But this one has a little plus sign on it. So if you zoom out to these, you know, to the thumbnails and you want to just see 1 again, or you just want to see 4 again, you zoom back into this. Does that make sense? So when you're in thumbnail, if you just want to get back to 1 picture, you press this and it'll take you back to 1 photo. Good? Questions? All right. Number 5. It's this right here. What is this? You can tell me what the paper says, or you can tell me what you call it. I don't care.
Viewfinder IDs.
It's called the viewfinder IDs, right? So this is, oh, I can spell. This is your viewfinder So, you guys are used to looking at a screen and seeing your photo. That doesn't work on these cameras. I mean, there's a way to turn it on, but we don't turn it on because it uses the battery faster, and it's not necessary because that's what this is for, okay? So you will actually stick your eyeballs to the camera, like back in the old days, and take your photo using this, all right? The great thing about this, as compared to a point and shoot, is this actually looks through the lens itself, so it'll come down and look through the actual lens, and so it's not like you're looking here but taking a picture here. You're actually looking through, and that's what the mirrors are for. So you can actually look through the exactly what you're looking. Okay, so that's cool. Number 6. This is super uber important. I told you guys what it was the other day. Do you remember? No.
The
Command dial. Are there 2 M's? I feel like there's not 2 M's. It looks weird. Well, whatever. Alright, dial has 2 M's. Command dial. This is how you're going to scroll through, not your menu stuff, that's what this is for, but this is where you're going to scroll through for your meter and how you're going to change your aperture. So if you do not know what this little scrolly button does, then you're going to be screwed and not be able to use your camera. Okay? So you're going to use it for shutter speed plus aperture. And it's half of what you gotta press for aperture, right? That make sense? Okay. Number 7. Oh, tell me menu. What is this?
screen.
Screen. Okay? It's your screen where you're gonna see everything. Okay? It's where you're gonna see your menu, it's where you're gonna see your pictures, all of these things. What's this? This deal right here. It's got here, it's got here, got stuff like that on it. It's your multi-selector. Okay, with your multi-selector, you're going to go up and down. You're going to go side to side through all this menu stuff, as well as when you're viewing your photos. So when you're in playback or when you're in menu, that's when you're going to use this. Okay, playback and menu. All right, number 9. What is it?
Delete.
It's your delete, it's your trash. Why did I put a frowny face?
You've
Any
done
ideas?
delete.
Why?
What?
Press pause.
Alrighty, we are going to do the shooting, I don't remember what I call it, now that I just forgot. What do I call it? The camera breakdown sheet, that's what I call it. So we're gonna go through and talk about what each of these things do besides what they're just called. So, number 1 is called the
Playback.
Yay! Playback button. The playback button is how you're going to see all of your photos. It'll show for time on the screen and then it goes away. Is it not working? It's being stupid. Oh, okay. It will show for a time on the screen and then it goes away, it goes back to a black screen so that the battery doesn't go dead. So if you want to see it again, you got to press the playback button. What's the next one?
Menu.
Menu. Our menu is the most important because this is where you get to ISO. When you want to change your ISO on the camera, this is the only way to get there on your Nikons. So press this and it's probably already on yellow for ISO because that's typically the only thing people use it for. Sometimes white balance, but there's all of these things in here as well. Number 3 is
Thumbnail and help.
thumbnail and help. Okay. The important one here is thumbnail. This is where you can see more than one photo on the screen. So if you see the little tiles that are here, you can see one photo, or if you press this, it'll zoom out and then you can see 4, zoom out and you can see 9. So it'll go in multiples. So I think it'll go like 16. I don't remember if it goes 25 or not. But you can see multiples at a time. So that way, if there's a whole bunch on your memory card, you don't have to scroll down one at a time to get through them. This bottom one has 3 jobs. Anybody know what they are?
Playback zoom.
Playback zoom. What else?
Half reset.
Your half of the reset.
And settings.
And your settings. Yay, awesome. So the playback zoom is the important one here. And it's playback zoom, not zoom. The reason is because when you zoom on a digital SLR, that's not where your zoom is. That is a button. It's on the actual lens, which we'll get to in a second. So it's the lens where you zoom. So this only allows you to zoom in if you're in playback mode. So when you're here and you want to zoom in, you press this and it will get you closer to whatever it is in the photo. So you can look and see if somebody's eyes are closed, see if they're making rude gestures, those sorts of things. Make sure for clarity is most often why I would zoom in. The other thing it does is while you're in thumbnail, if you want to get back out of thumbnail, you press the zoom button and it will go from 9 to 4 to 1, zooming back in. All right, number 5. Viewfinder eyepiece. We are used to, these days, we're used to looking at our screen to take our photo and to make our composition. That's not the way it works on these cameras. There is a way to turn that on. If you get your own, you can do that all you want, but it runs our batteries dead, so we're not gonna do that. So we're gonna look through the viewfinder. So you actually stick it to your face and look through this to do that. If it looks blurry and you can't make it clear, there's like a little toggle, either this side or this side, that you can roll or slide, depending upon the camera that you're using, that will focus that. And the reason that they have that on the viewfinder eyepiece is so that, like us that wear glasses, we can not have to wear our glasses and put our glasses up and stick it to our face, which I never do, but you can stick it to your face. So then you just roll that and it just changes the magnification in the viewfinder eyepiece and only viewfinder eyepiece. So that way we can see if things are clear, if that makes sense. Okay, super handy. Number 6, super uber important. What is it?
Command dial.
Command dial. What does the command dial do? It scrolls, and what does it control?
Shutter speed.
Shutter speed. And aperture. And it's half of the aperture because you have to press the aperture button, and we'll talk about that in a minute, in order to make that engage. So it's not just the shutter speed that you're changing. Okay? No press button, shutter speed. Yes, press button, aperture. Okay? Number 7, super simple. What is it? Screen. Okay? Screen, monitor, whatever you want to call it. Okay? This is where we're going to view everything, including our menu, including our photos, all of those things. Number 8. You have these on like everything we own at this point. What is it? Multi-selector. This is how you're going to scroll up and down and side to side through your menu and through your photos. You have to press the OK button. Like when you go in and do the ISO, people forget to press OK. You got to press the OK button. You can't just land on it. You got to go, yep, that's what I'm picking, and pick it. Okay? So don't forget about the OK part of it. That's important. And this last one on the back of this is delete or trash. Okay? The delete or the trash, and I don't want you to use this. Does anybody know why? We haven't gotten here yet. Does anybody know why I don't want you to use the delete or the trash button? So what happens, especially in this class, is that people go out and then I think that they're embarrassed by the photos that they took because they're either really dark or really light or really blurry or whatever, and or just compositionally suck. So then they delete them because they don't want to come back and let me see them. But I can't help you if I don't see them. Does that make sense? So when you go out and you shoot and you're like, well, they all sucked. Well, that's fine, but let's look at them and see what sucked means. All right. So we can go through them and go, oh, well, and then I can actually press the info button, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. I guess it's not here anywhere, but it's on top. We can press the info and it will tell me the information for each photo. So I can look at what your settings were, and that's how I help you troubleshoot and get better at shooting. Does that make sense? If I don't see those, then I can't help you. Good? All right. Anybody need more time on this? Probably not. I'll erase here. Let me unfreeze. Whoa. And slide. All right. Refreeze. Number 10. Does anybody know what this is? It's typically not up like that. Do we know what it is? What is it? It's your flash, but I'm going to call it your built-in flash. Does anybody know why I call it that in particular? Anybody? Huh? Because it's built in, but on these cameras, there's, and you can sort of see the top of it right here, but it's right here as well. There's what they call a shoe. So it's a little metal bracket where you can put an external flash. So these only shoot like a short distance, maybe 4 to 6 foot, right? But if you put a big one on there, it's gonna go 10 to 12 feet, right? Okay, so that's why this is the built-in flash, because these have the capability of putting a bigger flash on. Does that make sense? Another thing, if I'm in my room and I'm like, wait, why did I see a flash? I'm gonna get annoyed, because in this class we shouldn't use the flash. We're learning to use our light. Does that make sense? There are reasons to use flash, but this is not one. When we go to the assembly that we'll have in a couple of weeks probably, pet peeve of mine is it's generally the journalism students that haven't had photo, and they're out there with their flashes flashing while they're doing the light show. You're using a flash during the light show. Pretty sure you're ruining it all. So flash is not our friend in this class. We're gonna learn to use it without, okay? All right, this little button right here. I can't even see that button. What is that button? Oh, yeah. Does anybody know what the button is? Did you write it down yet? No, that's not right. Oh, yes it is. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing. This is to make this pop up if you want it to. So this is your flash button, okay? This, if for whatever reason you think you need the flash, you press this button and it makes that pop up. Shouldn't need it, but that's what it is. Okay, this is the one I was thinking I was writing. Can you guys see the symbol? It sort of looks like this. You guys know what that is? You guys have it on other stuff as well. What is it? It's your timer, okay? So this is your self timer. So if you want to, I actually have a friend whose daughter likes photography, and when she graduated, she took her own senior photos with her self timer on her big camera. So she went out, put things on tripods, put things on the ground, and did like all these photos, and they're really good. But she did them all with the self timer because she was comfortable with how she took photos, and didn't want somebody that was going to take ones that sucked and didn't want to pay somebody else. So, oops, sorry, fidgeting. So this is your self timer. It is also this FN. It's your function button, which we don't really, whatever. Okay. So self timer is the one we care about here. Good. I want to see if I talk about something else. I don't, so I'll backtrack to that in a second. This one right here, there is, it's hard to see on the screen, but there's a button right here. Does anybody know what that button is? This one right here? Anybody? Nobody wrote it down? It is. Thanks. It's the lens release. Why do I have lots of frowny faces on this one?
You don't use it.
No. Okay, so here's my deal. This takes off this. Okay, it doesn't you don't push it, it just falls off. You actually have to turn it. If you want to know how, you need to know how, please come to me and I will show you how to do it, including you people. Ask and we will show, because there's a way to do it besides just turning. There's a way to put it back on. And you'll end up messing up the metal brackets on both if you do it wrong, and it won't go on right, and you'll just screw up your camera, or my camera, whichever you're using. So the deal with this is because when you take off or put on the lens, you have to turn it to do that. So if you push this and it loosens, and then you're focusing later or you're zooming later, do you see a problem we could have, right? You don't want to buy a new one of these, okay? A new lens is a couple $100. That's not something you want to buy for us, all right? Just because you broke one. The other thing is, if you take this off and you put it back on and you don't have any problems with it, that's great. But inside there are a bunch of mirrors and optics that if you screw those up, then the camera doesn't work right. If you get dust in there, then it's inside and it's on every single one of your pictures. If you get fingerprints in there, they're on every single one of your pictures. We don't want these things screwed with, okay? This is all very expensive to, this is all very expensive to get cleaned, and the place that I had do that before closed. So he did give me the number of where he sends stuff, but to clean each camera is like $100, and I don't want to have to clean it because you've been inside of it. That make sense? So this one I'm super and I can show you if you want to know, but don't do it on your own, okay? All right, I'm gonna back this up a minute because I sort of wrote over the next thing I want to talk about. It's not on the list, but I want you to add it. Okay? Right here on the side of the lens, there's an A and an M, and we talked about this a little bit the other day, and then there's a switch that goes back and forth. Okay? This is auto and manual focus on the lens. Okay? So on our cameras, if on the cell phone, if you press the middle or touch wherever, it'll focus in those spots, right? Focus, focus, focus. On a big camera, it has manual focus, which is what we're going to use. And if you have it on manual focus, this focus ring will turn really, really easy. Do I not talk about that? Oh, yes, I do. Okay, perfect. So the focus ring, which we'll talk about in a second, right here, turns really, really easy. If you're on autofocus, it turns not at all. You would have to force it. So that's if it doesn't turn really easy, then don't force it. Come over here and look and see, is it on auto or is it on manual? Because you want it on manual. If it's on auto, and there are times where we shoot in auto, if you're helping me do something else. So if you come to help me shoot for the assemblies or when we're shooting senior photos, we're going to use autofocus because I don't want you to have to think about that and take a great picture that's blurry. Okay? Because you're living in that moment and you can't get that moment back. So if you're on autofocus, in order to get it to focus, you're going to press down halfway on your shutter. Okay? So all of those components go together, which is why I wanted to talk about this real quick while we can see it, because you can only sort of kind of see it right here when we get over there. All right? Questions? Okay. I'm unfreezing. Okay, we're on Photoshop. There we go. Okay, we are here now. Refreeze. All right, number 14. I kind of told you what it was. What is it? I just literally just talked about it. Focus ring, okay? This is your focus ring. If you do not focus this, you are gonna have blurry pictures. I promise. But Miss Willard, they're blurry. stupid camera doesn't work. No, you're not focusing, okay? This one is, don't call it the lens, it's called the, yeah, it's your zoom or your telephoto if we have the telephoto on, right? Sorry. The zoom, so this is how you're gonna zoom in and zoom out. So these numbers right here, you guys see where it says 18, 24, 35, 45, 55? Yes? This is how far in you're zoomed, okay? So 18, you're actually zoomed way out. 55, you're zoomed in kind of, okay? Typical normal is 50. That's like, this is what I see, about 50. So 55 is zoomed in a little bit more than typical, okay? Zoomed out, zoomed in. So this could be considered a wide angle, okay? Because it's zooming away. Number 16. I want Emily to answer this one. Emily, what's this one? You learned it. Yes, you did. You learned it on your camera just the other day. Remember when you're like, wait, how do you what? Turn it on? Yes, remember? I'm pretty sure you weren't even thinking just now. This is your power toggle switch, whatever, okay? This is how you're gonna turn it on. It's gonna flip back and forth. There's a little mark right here, this little white mark. That's how you know if it's on or on off. If you switch it and the off is right above there, then it's on off. Otherwise it's on. Somebody left theirs on the other day. Shame, shame, turn it off. Okay? So the silver button is, yeah, it's gonna be your shoot. It's gonna be your capture. It's gonna be your picture taking button, right? Okay, press this, take the photo. Again, if you are on autofocus, then you're gonna press it halfway, it'll focus, and then press it press it the rest of the way and it will take the photo. All right, so number 18 is the one on the outside. Can you tell me what number 18 is? It's got a couple jobs, I believe. Yeah, it's got 3. One of them we really, really care about. I'm gonna list the one we really, really care about first. What is it? Yes, thank you. Aperture, okay? When I said we press a button while we scroll the command dial, which is right here, you just can't really see it in this picture. Yeah, anyways, it's right here. That's why it's right there. So you can press here and scroll here at the same time. You have to actually be holding it while you're scrolling. You can't just press it and then scroll. You have to hold it down while you scroll. Okay? That's how you're gonna change your aperture. It's also a couple of compensations. So it's a flash compensation, which we don't really care about. And it's exposure compensation, which I talked a little bit about with you the other day. It's on the button when you're actually looking at the button. I'm not sure if you can see it on your list. You can kind of see it on mine. But it's like, it's got like this square and it's like a plus and a minus, okay? So that's your exposure compensation. So you're adding to or taking away even whatever the meter says. It may be in the center. If it's to the plus, it'll be brighter. If it's to the minus, it'll be darker, okay? So that's your exposure compensation, which you probably won't use very often, if ever, in my class. 19, I sort of mentioned earlier when I said that if I need to help you figure out and troubleshoot what's wrong with your photos, this is your info button. So when you're looking at your screen and you're like setting your stuff and it goes black, just press this and the information will come back up, okay? As you're looking at photos in playback on your screen, you wanna see more information or you wanna see your information, press this. The other thing you do if you wanna see more information, you can't see it at the moment, but on your multi-selector, if you press up or press down, it will give you more information about each photo. So like your ISO, your shutter speed, what mode you're shooting in, so I can get in there and go, they didn't shoot in manual, they shot in exposure, or not exposure compensation. They shot in programmed or something, right? So it will tell me those things through the info button. All right, the last one before we talk about the modes. It is called the, I just said one word, mode dial. Okay, it's the mode dial. So this is how you're going to select what mode you're using. And in this class, we always use M, manual, right? M, manual. How you know which one it's on is just like here, where this is for the on off. This is for choosing your mode. Okay, you got to use this. On some of the newer cameras, there's also a toggle around the outside of this. I had a student a couple of different times that was using the toggle. They're like, but you know, because it's like this raised thing. So they were like putting it on that toggle. Well, the toggle moves. So you can't really go, oh, but here I have it lined up here. Yes, but now it's over here. So now I got it lined up. You know, it doesn't work like that. This is a stationary mark. This is where you line it up with. We good? Questions? Okay. All right. We're going to do the modes. And I'm going to talk about the modes because not only do we have them on the cameras, but you have them on your point and shoots, and you have them on a lot of your phones. So I'm going to zoom in where we can see these, and we're going to talk about the modes. And I will read to you what it says in the book for the modes. So those phones you can't stop staring at, now's the time to listen, because now you know how to use that a little bit better too. All right, so we're going to start with the one we're going to use in this class. So it is the M for, I forgot to freeze it. The M for manual, okay? This is manual mode. This is the only thing we're going to use in here, okay? This, you set everything. Okay? Don't care, you're setting it. Whatever it is, you're setting it. Okay? What's A? Don't say auto. Aperture. Huh? Aperture priority. Okay? Why is it aperture priority, not just aperture? Right? It's hard to spell while you're talking. Aperture priority. Does anybody know what aperture priority means? You may have read about it. Depends where you are in your paperwork, whether or not you've read about it yet. Anybody? Nobody? Okay, well, I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to tell you because, again, on your point and shoots, you have these. And if you were 5-6 years from now, buy a camera and you're like, crap, what did Miss Weller say? But you can remember what I said about aperture, but you can't remember